Good afternoon. Tansei. Bonjour. I'm here on behalf of the interim president, Dr. Bob Casius from the First Nations University of Canada. I'd like to thank the organizers for allowing us to have the opportunity to attend the conference and to be a partner investor. I stand here before you very emotional and taken back by the amount of energy that's in this room and that we're all here as a collective for reconciliation. First Nations University prides itself on not only being a national post-secondary institution, but it sets us apart because we have students that attend our institution from all over Saskatchewan, Canada, and internationally. Our vision is to have transformative impact on our students while honoring their ceremonies, knowledge keepers, languages, and traditions while delivering a high-quality education. At the heart of our vision, though, are our students. Our students are who we honor. Our students are who we work for. Our students are the heart, and because of that, we work to honor their unique Indigenous identities. We are excited this year because over the last 5 years, we have the highest enrollment of students across our 3 campuses in Regina, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert. Notably, our Prince Albert campus is bursting at the seams and has equivalent numbers to our students in Regina. That is because of the people like you in this room who encourage our youth to do well, to succeed, to believe in themselves, and to move forward in a good way. You can see this in the alumni, some of which are in this room, and the impact the First Nations University has had. Some of them are musician artist Brad Bellegarde, CTV's Krishan Ajikute, Kalas's chief Cadmus Delorme, and not only our hostess with the mostest, Neil, wherever Neil went. He's an alumni. Thank you, Neil, for inviting me. In my 20 years of being an educator, working alongside youth in the inner city and in very rural areas and very affluent parts of urban centers, the most important thing that I've learned is that relationship building and trust is the key to understanding our youth and making a difference in their lives. And we've heard this time and time again from the presenters that we've had in our breakout sessions and from our speakers up here. This is where we interact authentically, we engage genuinely and meaningfully, and they know that you have their back. I am honored today to be introducing the next speaker, Dr. Shawn Lesardin, who is not only a good friend of mine, but also a fantastic human being, an exceptional educator, even if he wears goofy hats. You'll see that in a moment. Shawn and I met 20 years ago when we were in the Indian teacher education program as pre-service teachers here in Saskatoon. My first impression of Shawn was quite interesting, to say the least. And for lack of a better phrase, and pardon me here, but Shawn was the class clown full of piss and vinegar every day. He was always cracking, you know Shawn, right? So he was always cracking jokes, keeping us engaged, even in the most boring and unengaging lectures with the most unengaging instructors. Now, before I fast forward, Shawn disappeared, I think in my 2nd or 3rd year of university, and I never did see him again, but I wondered what had happened. Fast forward 14 years, I reconnected with Shawn when we were both instructors at the University of Regina. I was an instructor, Shawn, of course, the professor. Part of me wondered, how in the world did he manage not only to get a degree in education, but to become a teacher, despite how he was in the classroom setting, let alone a professor at the University of Regina? Well, given his unique approach to learning in university, I learned very quickly why and why he is so special. Shawn's zest for life is evident in his passion for Indigenous education and through his work with Indigenous youth and post-secondary students. Dr. Shawn Lesardin is from Montreal Lake, Cree Nation, in Treaty 6 territory. He is an award-winning writer, international speaker, and researcher in the field of Indigenous education. Shawn is an adjunct professor at the University of Regina and an associate professor at the University of Alberta. He was awarded the Pat Clifford Emerging Researcher Award by the Canadian Association for Teacher Educators, as well as the 2018 American Educational Research Association Early Career Research Award. Wow. Shawn's work focuses on Indigenous youth empowerment and leadership in both in and outside of the schools. In this plenary, the Red Worn Runners, Reimagining Possibilities Alongside Indigenous Youth, Dr. Shawn Lesardin will reflect on how his earlier work alongside youth and communities continues to shape his understandings of curriculum as a process that is fluid, transactional, and filled with possibility. It is through these narratives and experiences alongside Red Worn Runners that Dr. Lesardin continues to draw on both philosophical and pragmatically in his research that explores places. These places include communities across Western Canada, where youth and families continue to guide his work. Please help me welcome to the stage my very good friend, Dr. Shawn Lesardin.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very much.
Put it in this pocket. Thank you. That's reconciliation right there. Can you turn it down a little bit? It's a little bit too loud to hear my own voice. I'm really thankful to be here. My name is Shawn Lesardin. I walked in today to this conference, not being at this conference, and I said now to 6 people how warm it feels in here. I sat down and there's still lunch left, so I was really, really happy. So I had a piece of lasagna, which was wonderful. And I sat down by myself in the corner, and then 2 young men said, "You could come sit with us, sir." Geez, I haven't been at a conference like that where somebody just asked me, and they told me a little bit about their stories, and it turns out the 2 young men, they're actually from my home community of Montreal Lake. I appreciate that. I got to run into another wonderful person in Lorna who just makes me feel so warm and makes me feel good to be here and gives me strength to speak, and I'm just thankful to be here to share a few stories and share a few words. And Saskatoon has deep roots for me. So on the plane ride here from Edmonton this morning, I just got out my notes and I just wrote a couple things because people were talking about Mr. Linklater, and I too had some awesome experiences, learning experiences alongside Mr. Linklater a long time ago. I do think Reela might not be telling the truth about some things though, because I've not been a math major, but I counted more like 25 years, not 20. So I just wrote this morning, Mr. Linklater, gentle teacher, relational teacher, sitting and listening alongside him, sitting by a fire listening, helped me to learn about what it means to feast, protocols and processes, apples and gifting. I didn't always get it, only over time, always over time. Friendship Center lunch sessions, late night volleyball league there, the tennis courts at Bedford Road, a Buffalo Cup played each night in a different way. The Sunset Stanley Cups in my youth are held here in Saskatoon. Wanna game with Summers and long walks alongside, shuffling down Spadina to the late night coffees on the train bridges. What a beautiful thing. I think I fell in love somewhere during that time in those years. Trying to imagine forward as I look back and memories roll back, stories resting within me, been dormant for far too long. The Main Street program on Broadway was where I started. Kids outside not fitting. It was a brick building and vintage couches always, open for a warm tea and a pressed grilled cheese sandwich. Those kids still remain hungry. Assistant teaching, Princess Charles, that's a little over the top, that name. And on to Lester B. Pearson. After that, never thought about all those names until I write them down now. Teaching places, West Side, East Side. Thinking of young people today, Jesse, Tanya, Marcia, and Elliot. Too many to name them. All the best teachers showing me other ways. Group homes and home groups, outreach, they say. Well, let's reach out here. Take my hand, kid. It's where I spent my time in this particular place, Saskatoon. Wraparound approach, they say. Stay in school. Stay with it is what I'm thinking more clearly now. U of S, ITEP, Indian Teacher Education Program, teachers teaching, beginning teacher, more like a teacher beginning for me. It was a spectacular starting point. Perhaps an opportunity to imagine a different story within myself, more like it. Powerful place to learn. Bird and Tatusis, Wetney and Cottrell, I still recall. Focus, Indigenous 101. Insurance costs, I need a responsible car. My dad's monthly visits to the big city to check in. Check, please, I need help. He always had me that Superman, super guy, a white man, farmer and settler that took me in way long ago. Unpack my pack and stay for a while kind of guy, he'd say. Thank you, I'll always say. I remember him saying, my son's a university student. I got his bill. Salty 10 on the table as I'm sipping on a root beer float. I could still remember. Naming it, saying it, sounds good first time, and last time we hit that connection point. Quiet, not much for small talk, that guy, but he was loud this day. I lost him that year, that first university year. Fragile, feeling a little lost. Dark nights sometimes make it difficult coming home to this place in a different way, even now in the present. Whitecap Dakota Jim Knights, not Jim Knight. They welcome me in always to beautiful Bear Clan. I don't forget those early youth working memories. Newtana Blues, and Broadway Stories, weekly breakfast, same place, same time. Young people trying to make a life all around here, placeless, searching, walking, egads to White Buffalo youth stories. Mr. Maurice, I remember you, and running with rope is on my mind always. Introductions, formulating relations, and youth teaching us along the way. They are so generous. Gentle teachers, those youth. In each place, they show me how to help me understand what I might be missing. 25 years has gone by too fast. I miss my mentors. It's always good coming home, returning, inner to outer memory markers that still shape me in the present. I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you for welcoming me to this home place once again. Thank you. Thank you. Is it break time now? That's all my attention span can hold. But I was thinking about some of those pieces, and you never know where stories take you. And that's what was on my mind today, of just remembering back to all the good things, And then you bring all these folks here today, and I've been following you very closely on social media, and it's absolutely wonderful what's happening. And I'm not just saying that as a teachery thing to say. I'm thinking about stories. I'm thinking about stories. And I called this particular story the Red Warren Runners. The Red Warren Runners is a story that I wrote 10 years ago about young people who wanted to move in a different way. And yeah, I had these awesome roots in Saskatoon and in Saskatchewan, the land of the living sky, that still pull on me in the present. And I went after that first year from the Indian Teacher Education Program to the University of Alberta, where I eventually landed a job teaching with young people. And I got a chance to work with this unbelievable bunch of young students, Indigenous students, in this gigantic place of 2,500 students. And my job in this place was to connect and to try to find space where we could imagine something different in school. And I was so naive, thinking about, the only way to do this is the teacher ways. I remember first 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 6 young people said, Lesard, I want to graduate with my class. Can you help me? I said, well, yeah, that's easy. Take summer school. What a teachery thing to say. They said, you're not listening to me, Lesard, that we live in the rural areas. Our families work. How are we supposed to go to summer school when we don't have transportation to get there? What a privileged way I was thinking. I said, I need to sit with this for a little bit. And I had this one awesome leader a principal that said, Shawn, think outside the box. You mean, use your imagination. You tell me what you want to do and just go do it. Man, and that's refreshing. Because then you can begin to imagine and move in different ways alongside young people. I said, you know what we'll do? Is we'll take the school to you. And we're not going to call it school, we'll call it education. You know what we'll do? Is I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers that want to do something differently. Guess what? Every single one of them were non-Indigenous. Because that's all there was there. And me. And they said, you know what, Lesard, we'll think with you. We'll get outside the box. We'll teach 4 hours a day, and we'll teach kids Aboriginal studies, social studies. We'll do wellness. We'll do fitness. We'll do what kids want to do, but we will meet them on their terms. No longer are they coming to my place. We have to get uncomfortable and unsettled to move to their place. It was the first time many of these teachers had ever been to a community before, ever been to a First Nation before, ever been to the reserve before. They played alongside me. They listened to the kids. They moved in different ways. I hate those kids right now. Do you know why? The first thing they said, you know, Lesard, you're looking a little portly. I think what we should do is we should run every day at the beginning. I said, please, no. That's not meeting curricular outcomes. Yes, it is. You need to do this, Lesard, with us. And so at the beginning, we ran, and we stretched, and we slowly got ready for a run. And at the end of that summer, where we started off 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, we had 40 kids, 38 of 40 finished. High school credit. I think about that, and I keep telling this story because it takes me home in a different way, and it takes me home to the most important work that I think I'm doing. It wasn't me, it was just me being an adult to try to carve out some space for them so they could do what they knew how to do. Our classroom was an elder's garage in the community. We were surrounded by ceremonial pieces every single day. What a way to start your day. They called themselves the Red Warren Runners. And I'd like to share the narrative I wrote after that summer, spending time with them, in this crumply old piece of paper. Sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one day 30, but every day through August, the Red Warren Runners have been inspiring me as we shuffle, sprint, and navigate our way down the dusty roads of Enoch Cree Nation, always wearing red t-shirts, that is. It's a beautiful thing to experience, and we always start at the local school in the town site, stretching, slowly getting ready for a run. Sometimes I love this daily ritual, other times I loathe it. It depends how my body's feeling. But we stick together through this one day at a time. Girls, boys, young people, and older people like myself make this trek daily throughout August. Sometimes we run 4 kilometers in a day, and we make sure to always jog by the community health center and the band office. It's interesting because now people wave at us when we jog. They used to look at us with mistrust. There was doubt in their glances. They quietly shook their heads as they saw youth move in a different way. I like visiting with youth about the run and how it feels. They say they love it, and now I'm starting to believe it as they log their kilometers and look towards the poster to see how far they're going, to see how far they've been. Did I tell you? You should see these kids run. It's beautiful. No training, no fancy gyms, just the town site bumpy dirt roads with truck imprints embedded in the earth. Then the sandy gravel of the back roads toward the potato plantation. It's our target turnaround always. Wheat fields and canola fields are on each side. They seem to be our only fans some days, and they seem to wave us on when we move. You see, there's no judgments there. We run, and the youth tell me they've never done this before, never seen the fields like I'm describing them, never seen the beauty in them like I do. I'm hoping and thinking they see it now. I'm hoping they see something different within themselves. We're all in a line, a long red line, staying as close together as possible. And when the Red Warren Runners take off in the distance, it's magical. It takes me home every time we run, home to the gravel roads and the farms of my youth, to the wheat fields and barley fields and the beautiful sounds and smells that I can no longer imagine the city. You see, the reserve's a beautiful place when we let ourselves see it this way, shifting what we see by running through it. I think the kids felt it this past week as an elder's van pulled us over on kilometer 3 on that sandy dirt road, and an older woman shook all the kids' hands out the window. Here we thought we were going to get scolded, but no. She told them to keep it up, keep running. They're smiling like local celebrities, those kids. We all smiled. It's the closest to fame we'll probably ever get, but it's the internal fame that we should be celebrating anyways. I also think the kids felt that when guest runners from the city started to join us on the run, And when we ran past Elder Bob's house and a little red fox was watching us on the driveway, watching the red worn runner snake through the sandy obstacle course. You see, we talk about treaties, families, relationships, and the beauty of creation on those morning jogs. We're simply moving knowledge, as Basso might say. It's a living curriculum. They talk about a familial curriculum acknowledged. I didn't think the kids would continue, but once again, it shows you just how much I don't know. They showed up every day and even run on their own these days. And now as September rolls in, I heard that the other day on the reserve, a couple people were running. They told it was because of the kids, because of seeing them. I guess they are local celebrities after all. They laughed when they told me. I love those kids. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Joe with his braid and Michael, they're running straight to the west, running at a pace that I can only consider in my mind. They glide when they move. I wonder what they're thinking when they run. The red worn runners will continue to be on my mind as the leaves get ready to turn and the farmer swaths down the majesty to the left and the flowering yellow to the right. It is indeed a beautiful thing, one I won't soon forget. I hope we all keep running. Sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one time 30. Today it's just me. The red worn runners have inspired me to shuffle, sprint, and navigate my way down the dusty roads of Enoch Cree Nation, always wearing red t-shirts, that is. Thank you. Now let's do this. People say, then Lesard, so what you did is just set up a running club? I said, not really. You mean what I really wanted to do, and the only thing I knew from my prior experience is that I needed to get to a different space to be able to move differently with young people and to move differently with teachers. And what I struggle right now in my life, sometimes in organizations or in schools, is the creativity stifles and it stops when I can't find space to move differently in relationship. I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about reconciliation in a different way. So what do you do, Lesards? I said, well, sometimes I just have to look to disrupt the space gently, to be disruptive a little bit, but to try to find other ways to engage, other ways to move in relationship. People say, what do you do? Find your space. I said, you got to find your space. You got to map the landscape. They said, Lesard, be more clear. We need to find space to move differently in relationship. So far to get to, so hard to get to, not prescriptive, but I know from here that that's the way I need to connect to kids in a different way, to move and to think differently about some of these pieces. But it's not about creating space in a directional teacher-to-student relationship. It's about co-creating space alongside each other. Because youth have a very clear understanding of where they want to go and how they like to imagine education. I know that to be true. That's the only thing I know after 25 years of working with young people. Co-creating space. I talk in different places. I used to speak a lot like Rila talked about, but I used to actually do quite a number of speeches, and I now only do around 3 or 4. In my wisdom, and I want to apologize to the front row. I should have got to sign a waiver release form, but I was trying to stay young, so young, and play hockey with all these young fellas, and I took a slap shot in the face so hard that it busted my entire jaw. So I apologize if I'm spitting on you in the front row. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm working on it. But when I speak, I say, I think if we're talking about what we wanted from both points, is that when I drop my kids off at school, I think if we were to ask each other, do we want the same thing? I think we could agree that that's what we want in our schools for all of our kids. That's me with my Montreal Lake Cree Nation post-secondary jacket, dropping my kid off for kindergarten the first day of school. I think we'd want the same things. I end up speaking in different places, and all these stories of Saskatoon and of earlier experiences of my life. See, I talk about my life and my multiple homes. In my life, I kind of moved between places. I started off in Montreal Lake and would go to North Battleford and then back to Montreal Lake, and then I got picked up on free agent waiver wire, and I ended up in North Battleford. I think my dad, who brought me in at that time, a non-Indigenous person, I think he wanted a farmer as a son, and he picked the wrong draft pick with me. I remember going out to the farm in junior high, and I'd walk out there with a muscle shirt on with no muscle and a pair of shorts and flip-flops. He said, please go inside, you're embarrassing the neighbors. That is not reconciliation. I think he missed the lottery picking me. But I think about some of those stories earlier, and I was happy to have a place to put my backpack down, so to speak, and that family eventually adopted me and said you could stay for a while. And I remember certain conversations as I write, things that trigger me and things that I think about of defining moments. I think I always had a passion for working with young people. I remember my mom told me to get a job besides the one job that I had, and my job was raking seaweed in the summer. I thought that was an awesome job. But she said, imagine yourself differently. So I said, okay, there's another job. I'm going to apply for it. I'm going to go for it. In North Battleford, I grew up, and there's this awesome job. I was the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. I said, I'm going to go for it. In grade 10. My mom, 306-445-5488. We got a phone call on that phone there, and it's a woman, and my mom goes, why is a woman phoning you right now? I'm like, I don't know. No girls ever phone me. I don't know what's going on, Mom. So she says, yeah, somebody's looking for you. I'm like, so I'm talking to this woman. I'm like, and she's like, hey, we really love your resume, but this is so-and-so from the Boys and Girls Club. Are you missing a page on this resume? Like your educational background? I said, no, I'm in grade 11 right now. She says, it's the director job at the Boys and Girls Club. I said, well, my mom told me to shoot high, so I went for it. But so I think somewhere deep in my bones, I was looking to try to get a job working with youth. It didn't work out. I failed the interview, but it was a great conversation. I appreciated her calling me back, at least. Just, that's a point, called people back, man. It's the only female that's ever called me back in any kind of capacity. So I'm still thinking of trying to take positives out of this right now. When I think about that my mom, and how she had a certain path. She was a guidance counselor before she was a guidance counselor, because she said in grade 12, Shawn, by 9 o'clock tonight, you're going to pick a college. So she went from the farm to the city and got all these big post-secondary guides, right? You could do that online now, young people. But all these big, and she said, we're going to have supper. Supper's always at 5 o'clock. And she goes, you're going to pick a college. I said, well, why would I pick a college when there's a college like in town? No, here's another rule I forgot to tell you. It's got to be 100 kilometers away from here. I said, I'm not quite understanding that. My girlfriend and I, we're developing a relationship. I'm going to play a little bit more hockey after grade 12. I'm going to take a year just to reflect on my life. She goes, no, you're not reflecting on your life anymore. I'm done. 100 kilometers away, pick a college, 9 o'clock, tell me what you're going to do. That's a true story. I found something, and it was called rehabilitation services. And it involved working with people. With physical or mental disabilities at that time. That would be the language. What an unbelievable experience for me. A selfish 17-year-old kid who thought he knew so much, but to go to work with somebody other than yourself. To work with people who can't speak and to try to listen to people's bodies in a different way, that taught me a lot. I'm thankful. I think about Saskatoon, and I get angry when I drive by the Saskatoon Public School Board, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. It's a little angry story. Maybe it's a triggering story. But my mom, I remember we have these awesome conversations. She's my career counselor, guidance coach, and we're in grade 6, transitioning to grade 7. I'm telling my mom, and this woman, machine, 5 o'clock is supper, not 5:01, and it's business. And I remember her peeling potatoes, and I got home from the bus. And I told her that summer, I'm like, Mom, my life's changing next year for grade 7. She didn't even look. No eye contact, no body contact, nothing. Just kept on peeling potatoes and carrots. And I said, Mom, you're not listening. I'm going to be an academic student next year. Well, I got her attention. She was like, what? I'm going to be an academic student next year. And she goes, I said, I don't understand why next year is the big, but here's the trick, Mom. You got to start dressing me better. I said, no more Velcro shoes. No more lunch kits. I want Reebok. I want Nike. I want to wear other pieces. I said, I'm tired. If I'm going to compete against all these other kids, if I'm going to be academic, it's about looking good, feeling good. I learned that on Channel 6 today, Channel 6 and 7. That if you look good, you feel good, and I'm going to be an academic student. So please, no more Woco, no more Kresge's. Go somewhere else and get me some Sweatsitos. I wrote out a list, and my mom, I love her. She said, you know what? I'll do that for you. if that's going to make you an academic student. So my mom, I love her. She says, I know a place in the big city. Well, in North Battleford, where's the big city, friends? Saskatoon. She goes, I know a place. It's called the Army and Navy. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And that's why I hate Saskatoon School Board right now, because that was the Army and Navy, was it not? I know a place. And I said, well, that sounds like a European boutique. Mom, you go to that Army and Navy, and please bring me back Reebok, Nike, basically what I wanted to be a native Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, everything colorful and dynamic and baggy and a little bit of graffiti. But I mean, it's really interesting. Now I'm in school, so all those same colors are back and they're sharp. I should have kept everything, but they might not have fit too good. So my mom comes back with these beautiful sweatcitos, and I'm like every color under the rainbow, and I'm like, this is so good. So I remember getting ready for the first day of school, and I laid out my Reebok sweatcito, and it had graffiti down the side, Reebok, and I'm like, no Velcro shoes, tied shoes, and a brown bag lunch, and I'm gonna win the day. I'm gonna be an academic student. I push that, my bus driver comes, Rodney, and I push those doors open like I own this place at grade 7. I sat down in the front. I mean, that was enough. The big kids sit in the back. I go to school. Everything is feeling good. I know like it's gonna be dynamic. And to the left, I see the most beautiful person in the world. Her name, we'll call her Cindy. There she is to the left, and guess what she said to me? Lesardin, nice pants. I knew it, man. I said, if I look good, I feel good. Like, I know, like, this is winning the day. And I walk in that school 10 feet tall. Like, I'm signing autographs, kissing babies, and it's going to be a winning day. And this first morning of the first day, I took more notes than I did all of elementary school. I was answering questions before the teacher even finished. I knew I was on fire that day. That morning, actually, only. Let's be truthful. I come to lunch, and then Cindy Southgate, this beautiful friend, she says, Lesard, you like books? I said, of course, I'm an academic student. What academic student doesn't like books? She goes, no, Lesard, you love books. Okay, slow down, Cindy. My mom told me about girls like you. I only date grade 9s, by the way, but you're trying to get me off my game, and my mom told me about girls like you, and you can't do it. I'm an academic student. You're not inviting me to study because it's fake, and you're trying to distract me. Lesard, I'm actually trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. Everybody's talking. Yeah, because everybody's jealous. That's what my mom told me would happen. And exactly what she said is happening. And she says, no, everybody's talking. Even the teachers are talking. Yeah, that I like books? Yes, it's new. This is new for them. This is new. No, your pants say read books on them. I hate my mom. So this conference is more for me on a personal level. I hate Army and Navy for real mad. Like I get mad when I drive by that. Now it's Saskatoon Public School Boards. I can't even visit friends in there now because it triggers me. And I look down at my pants, and the graffiti languages are, and then an E. And I'm like, yeah, these are Reeboks. And then I see an A. Well, that might have been an error in the press. Then I see a D, and I'm thinking read. No, that's not good. And then I say Bok, and then it says B-O-O-K-S. So I'm walking around on my first day of grade 7 with graffiti pants that say read books on the side of them. I'm getting angry at Cindy, which has nothing to do with reconciliation. She was white, maybe, I don't know. And she was a settler. And she's saying to me, I'm trying to help you. Are you wearing a mass shirt tomorrow, Lesard? Like, settle down. Try to fit in here. This is an aggressive way to start junior high. I go home to my mom and I say, why would you do that? She says, I found him in the $4.99 bin. Like, I look good. We're still working it out, my mom and I. Oh, they'll forget, she says. They'll forget. Well, I just saw a class anniversary reunion for fellas that I haven't. I'm 44 years old. They're 44 also, and they asked me how my mom's doing and how my dress is going since we've seen each other last. Hadn't seen each other for 15 years. They haven't forgot, Mom. But maybe I was meant to be a literacy catalyst or something. That's what I was thinking, maybe. Read books. I think about stories, tell stories, write stories in my little journal. But I think about all these formative stories that stay with you and that shape you in such good ways. And some of the best stories I have are from this actually city. 1,234.62. 1,234.62. 1,234.62. I kept every single stub from my job at the Main Street program, and I still have today. In that place, I met this awesome person who was a non-Indigenous woman that said, hey, would you be interested in working here for a while as a teacher assistant, as a youth worker? And after I graduated from college from 17 to 19, my dad phoned me and he said, Shawn, we have this opportunity, like, are you gonna come back to the farm? I said, Dad, you've lost a free agent, man, too late. Too late. And he goes, what? It's too late. I've already taken a job and I'm in Victoria right now, Dad. I'm selling fruit on the side of the road. I'm selling grapefruits at a high level. And then the phone went silent and I phoned him back with all my change. It's not easy change to try to phone him on the payphone. He said, we lost connection? No, I hung up on you. But before I left to sell fruit on the side of the road, I put an application in here in Saskatoon to try to be a teacher assistant or try to do youth work in some meaningful way. And I remember walking to this weird place, this brick place that I wrote about earlier, the Main Street program, a place where kids get removed from other places. It's a chance to try to create a different story forward. And this woman's giving me an interview question, and she said, so like, what relevant experience do you have working with youth? And I said, like, none. I lost out on a great job as an executive director for some reason. But I'll tell you, what I can do is I could tell the difference between all kinds of grapefruits, and I sell at a very high level. And I remember her saying to me, my first mentor saying, you know what? I love your spirit. I used to travel a lot when I was young too. I've got a job for you. And in this place, I got to work with this unbelievable person who's still in Saskatoon. And before she got sick, we used to meet in Edmonton at the pirate ship every year just to stay with each other, just to connect again. That's more than just a teacher-assistant relationship. She created a space for me. I will never forget that lesson, and it stays with me so much in the work that I do, is that how are you supposed to imagine something different if you never got to walk in different places or to smell fruit in a different way? So in my life right now, in the present, that's what I think about when I'm working with kids, is that my job is actually to carve space out. Because you can't imagine differently if you don't show somebody by holding their hand a little bit alongside each other. I'm thinking about 1,234.62. She said after 2 years working there, Shawn, you can't stay here any while. You have to do something different. I said, well, I love this job. It's the best job. If I make $2,000 by the end of my career, it's going to be great. I'm going to be loaded, man. I was wrong. Financial literacy was not my strength back then. With 1,234.62, she says, what I need you to do is do something different. I need you to go back and study at the school, at the university. I'll show you. I will take you there. I will take you to places where you don't go. We'll have cups of coffee in other places. We'll drink tea. I'll show you where the library is. And I said, resisting, that's only where smart people go. Shawn, you're smart. Let's go. Little things lead to big things. You know, the thing about universities is that you actually need a check or some kind of credit to actually even enroll in the place. This person, this non-Indigenous person, my first mentor, my first teacher, said, Shawn, I'll help you there too. I'll pay you back, I promise. And I've been paying her back ever since. Small things, but big things. Those are the things I'm thinking about right now here in this moment to share with you. I'm really cognizant of time right now because everybody's had such a long day. I'll end it by here. Sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one time 30. Today it's just me. The Red Warren Runners have inspired me as I shuffle sprint to navigate my way down the dusty road of Enoch Cree Nation, wearing red t-shirts, always. Thank you for welcoming me home.